We oppressed people are allowed to hate their oppressors. Yes. But also, guess what? Oppressed people are not allowed to shit on other oppressed people by saying, I'm a woman and therefore I'm oppressed. So trans women, well, okay, well then you're a white feminist, you know, like get them out of here. But yeah, here, this is the TikTok that's going mega viral. Is it a safe space to say I have a strong dislike for this specific type of man? Yeah. Wait, by the way, it's really bad. It's really sad that Curtis Connor got clapped on this too. Like, yeah. And why are you catching it straight? It's because, first of all, I mean, this was the meta and it's like falling out of favor, and that's fine, right? This was the meta, is falling out of favor, that's fine. Half of the reason why I think people have this kind of resentment is because guys that look exactly like this, that are fake male feminists, have ruined this, whoever this account owner is. This poor lady most likely got her life ruined by an absolute dipshit that presented himself as like a soft boy, male feminist, whatever, and then was a douchebag. So now she's like, I hate these men. They're all secretly insert whatever happened to her from a guy that looks like this. You know, the girl that posted it is a TERF. Yeah, I mean, usually they're also TERFs too. They'll be like, this guy, he's pro sex work, so obviously he's a sleazy piece of shit. Whatever. You don't need to be charitable to crazy. I mean, yeah, it's usually that. It's usually a TERF or a SWERF, oftentimes a SWERF and TERF. Sex work exclusionary radfem, trans exclusionary radical feminism. Honestly, I think the TERF and SWERF meta is going to keep popping, but it will reach a peak most likely by next year. It's a big meta. TikTok gender wars greatly elevated this in the Western hemisphere, I would say. But the misandry, I'm a TERF, I'm a rad femme, I think like all men need to be killed, like I'm waging a political war just on men, like that shit is most likely going to reach its peak. It hasn't reached its peak yet. It's still going, but I think it's going to kind of fall apart. Like, this is how it goes. Usually there is like a trend. People really get invested in it. People really love that shit. Like, I think 2016 onwards, there was a massive pro sex work movement, right? There was a massive pro sex work movement, you know, and it was great, wonderful. It kind of relapsed, like it just kind of fell apart. The massive pro sex work movement in the midst of unprecedented attacks against sex work still kind of fell apart, and then the rise of, like, you know, the rise of SWERFs and TERFs really banged in the process. I don't care that much about it because I think it's just noise ultimately. Like, misandry is irrelevant. Misandry ultimately is irrelevant. It's just a reactionary approach to misogyny, which is the only game in town that has institutional legitimacy and institutional power. So it is what it is. Let the ladies chirp a little bit. You know what I mean? Let them have fun. That's how I feel about it. Let the ladies hate on men a little bit. I just don't like it when they hate on sex work in general, and I don't like it when they also hate on trans women. But
Sam
it is
not,
what it is. It is what it is. I was trying to see the comments of the first video that pops up is Ethan. That's crazy. Get Curtis Connor out. It gives feminists in public abuser behind closed doors. Like, this right here is just like, like, this is just hypocrites, performative, liars, and manipulators. Male manipulator, final boss. You know what's funny about this? It's just like, yeah, that's just your own personal experience with a guy that looks like this. Like, you had a shitty experience, which, again, it's fine. It is what it is. Curtis is a feminist, though, and he raised money for BLM, LGBTQ rights, and free Palestine. He's a liberal. Let's clap. I don't know. Me, when I have zero critical thinking skills, so insufferable, bro. Yeah, it's just people are just mad. Why is Curtis Connor always catching strays? Especially Curtis Connor. Nah, not Curtis Connor. Liberal equals right wing equals abusers. Yeah, I know. Safe sleazy. Pill eaters has been cooking Curtis and the way Curtis looks, and cooking me as well, ironically enough. But I mean, I don't really give a shit, like I said. The reality of the matter, can we not do TikTok comments? I mean, someone sent it to me. I'm just explaining my position on it. It's fine. It doesn't really matter, ultimately. It doesn't matter. It's just people screaming into the void for the most part. Horrible haircut, by the way. Neff L. Wait, what? I don't think my haircut's horrible. I think it's perfect. Who cares about these comments? Complaining is just another form of not all men. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that at all. I'm just trying to explain to people that do see this kind of stuff that it's ultimately irrelevant, and getting upset about it is silly. And people should understand where this anger comes from, because some of that resentment, not saying that anti-trans stuff or the anti-sex work stuff, but some of that resentment towards men in particular across the board does come from systemic harm that that a lot of these women have experienced, and also direct harm, like personal harm that they've experienced, and how that kind of abuse is normalized in society. So it is what it is. Radfems are so instantly racist and use the same 1350 memes to justify it. Yeah, no, some of the it's a dangerous pipeline. I will say this much. I will say the last thing I'm going to say about Radfems is that, yo, what's up, lovers? We don't love Israel here, chatter. Shut up. We oppressed people are allowed to hate their oppressors. Yes, but also, guess what? Oppressed people are not allowed to shit on other oppressed people by saying, I'm a woman and therefore I'm oppressed. So trans women, well, okay, well then you're a white feminist, you know, like get them out of here. It's just, that's exactly my point. Like, I understand why there's so much resentment and misplaced anger in certain instances towards like all people that happens as a consequence of like being hurt and then feeling like no one hears you. And in many instances, actually not getting any sort of real justice in this process because of patriarchal constructs that exist, and then developing this resentment. The problem is a lot of the TERF stuff, or not TERF stuff, sorry, a lot of the Radfem stuff can very quickly, a lot of the TERF shit can very quickly turn right wing, because the inflection or the inception point of radical feminism oftentimes comes from direct harm that you've experienced, and therefore if you drop, I mean, it's in some ways it's illogical, if that makes sense. Like, it's understandable to feel resentment and anger, but of course if you translate that to like, I'm waging a war against all men, then ultimately yes, you are being illogical. In the same way that like and I'll say this as well, people get mad at me here too. Like, if you're a trans person and you think all cis people are inherently out to get you, I understand exactly where that anger and resentment and fear comes from. But yes, of course, it is still technically an illogical fear to have. It's just a defense mechanism that you've developed over the years of constantly being over. Same thing goes for black people afraid of all white people, or angry and resentful towards all white people across the board. It's a valid anger and resentment to have, but extending it to everyone will lead you astray. Sometimes you will end up developing reactionary frameworks as a consequence of that, and that's how you arrive at like the ADOS movement, or that's how you arrive at like some of these other movements that are ultimately irrelevant, not that significant, don't have that kind of don't have that kind of motion. It is not valid. No, you're literally misunderstanding. The purity spiral strikes even when you agree, Lamau. No, not women. Is it not valid? No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I think the anger, fear, and resentment from experiencing marginalization is totally valid. But I think when you extend that across the board, like, the sentiment is understandable, but if that is your driving motivator, you go down in certain instances, you go down a dangerous path. This is literally something that you would probably discuss with a psychiatrist, ironically enough, in an effort to work through abuse that you've experienced in the past. especially when no one was there to help you, especially when people maybe even attacked you after you tried to speak out against your abuse. It's like, I'm telling you that it's underlying trauma that is not addressed in a healthy way that becomes that ends up guiding your entire worldview. And then in that process, especially because there is validity, there's political validity to this kind of anger and resentment, given the harmful systems that we all exist under, but especially marginalized people exist under, they kind of move into a false sense of justice and ultimately turn around and can fall into reactionary ideology in the process. That's how you go from being a rad femme and being like, all men, to saying, you know, trans women, because trans women are men too. Like, and you're like, whoa, well, hold on, what the happened? That's what it is. That's what it freaking is. All right. I'm a trafficking survivor and have been assaulted even after that. Every year I've been alive. For a marginalized person to show fear towards the people that hurt them is not something you can just get out of. No, I'm not saying that at all. But given the fact that you're in this community, you probably have over the years developed a much more open-minded attitude towards like people on their own path of learning. And that's what I try to do all the time. This is what I try to do, to pull back people from developing reactionary ideas. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, none of this is to say like fuck all men, don't say fuck all men or whatever. I don't give a shit. I mean, that TikTok that we were looking at was directly saying fuck this man, and that man was me, and I still don't care. I understand exactly where it's coming from. You know, it's all good. I just don't want people to move that kind of valid resentment and valid fear and valid anger that they have into a political ideology that ends up being incredibly violent and damaging and reactionary to marginalized groups, other marginalized groups. I love when chat just makes up things you never said. You said resentment towards dudes is understandable, just don't punch down. Yeah, it's you know what's really interesting about this is like it's the same instance, it's the same principle I hold on every issue. Like, what do I always say? I say it's healthy to have a resentment towards rich people across the board. That includes myself as well. So I understand when people are like, yo, fuck this guy. The problem is many people only have resentment towards like people like myself or people that are accessible to them, that they think like we dominate their lives in meaningful ways. Like people getting mad at Pokey for being like, no, the super wealthy is actually, you know, the people that designed society to have these sorts of damaging outcomes. Like they're at fault and fuck those people. Like, and then people yell at her and they go, no, you're a part of that. It's like, okay, well, that's just misplaced anger. I mean, I still don't think it's a bad thing to have misplaced anger. Okay. Having that level of resentment and it's healthy. It's healthy to have a level of skepticism and resentment towards all rich people. So that's, you know, I don't mind it, but you know, keep that energy with the fucking likes of Jeff Bezos and adjust it to the level of wealth and prominence that fucking Jeff Bezos has, right? Well, women can't even go talk about what they go through without being called Nazis. Shit is kind of weird. Not saying TERFs are okay, just saying men uphold the system like most men. Okay, first of all, the infallibility of women in upholding these systems, especially white women, is kind of fucking voting gladly for Donald Trump by 52% margins. Let me, come on, okay? That's number one. Number two, I never even said that like all women that demonstrate misandry are across the board wrong and fuck them or anything like that. I literally said I understand where it's coming from. And then I actually explained another thing that people are mad about, you know? And that is a healthy resentment towards wealthy people. Anyway, it's good that we started off the conversation today with a healthy dose of talking about TERFs and SWERFs and radfems and whatnot, because today we're going to be talking about how Donald Trump wants all of you ladies to become baby incubators. But that's in a little bit. I'll obviously get to that when I get to it. But before I do that, let me blast off. I'm in a good mood, dude. Hopefully nobody fucks it up. I always say this and then they fuck it up. Okay.